Yo,
Hello.
how are you guys doing?
Good. How you doing, Todd?
Good.
Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. What you up to
Yeah.
today so far?
Well, it's kind of funny. We just got back from. We had a social distance gathering with Woody Weatherman's parents, Tony and Karen Weatherman.
Oh, cool.
We've we never see Woody at all because he lives like 3 hours away in the Virginia mountains.
Yeah.
But I've been friends with Woody's parents for a long time, and then when me and Kristin met up and she moved down here, she kind of was taken under Karen Weatherman's wing. So she spent a lot of time with the Weathermans too. So we're both,
Cool.
it's kind of funny. We're both pretty good friends with them. And then Mike Dean and his wife, Sue, also came over. So that's what we did today before we came back here.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
COC morning.
yeah, COC social distance porch morning, and I haven't seen Sue for like 8 months, and Kristin hasn't seen neither of them for like 7 or 8 months, or however long it's been since this year started. Dystopian nightmare.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, how's your year been so far, Todd?
My day?
Or your year? Like when all this stuff started, did you have any plans for things this year that obviously had to be shelved? And
Yeah, I guess lots of shows. We had shows booked from March all the way till December pretty much. So, but whatever. I'm pretty easy going. So like, if that doesn't happen, I just do something else. I just keep playing my guitar, keep drawing. Just do whatever.
Oh yeah.
I play them. If there's not, I don't, I suppose.
Oh yeah, we know that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad about all your touring and stuff. But what can you do?
Yeah.
I feel like at this point I'm just waiting around for the rest of the world to not be as stupid and to just get on with what has to be done so we can all go back to how things, maybe not how things were, because I don't think they're ever going to be the same again, but just on to something. And we've done everything that you're supposed to, like back in February and going into March, I guess, we started to hear about what was happening. And it seemed pretty obvious what to do. Stay put, try to not be around a lot of people.
Yeah.
And maybe if everybody thinks that way, we'll get through this. And that, obviously didn't happen.
Yeah.
But that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, it's weird.
What the fuck is wrong with people, man?
Yeah, I don't get it really, but I don't.
What does Canada think of America right now?
Canada?
Yeah, what are you guys, the general consensus of our
If you could speak for your entire country, well, if you could.
I think it seems ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, there is people up here, like, I don't know. Here, it's not like everyone's investing their whole identity in not wearing a mask. So you go to the grocery store, everyone's doing it. No one cares,
Yeah, just wear a fucking mask. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
It's like, even if you don't believe in it, just for the sake of the fact that you're a member of the society, even if you don't like everybody in your society, you still have sort of a vested interest in the well-being of everybody, just to keep on doing what you're doing. And the way it was turned into this political sort of thing, like to take sides, was just like just
Yeah, it's pretty go-headed. It almost shows like it's almost just an example of everything else that's happening. Just anything that makes sense, go against it. That seems to be the way. It's like, oh, you want, yeah, war sucks. No, I love war. Racism sucks. No, I love racism. You know, pandemics, you should try to avoid them. No, I love pandemics.
Pandemics are great. Yeah, I really like this. Yeah, we've had all kinds of cool stuff that I'm sure you've at some point I'm sure you've read about or seen or whatever, and we just can't believe it. You know, it's just it's really weird.
It's almost so so far gone that it's beyond anything anyone could have ever imagined. Like, no, people don't act like that in science fiction books. People don't act like that in fiction books. No one would believe it. It's almost too insane for anything, you know. Like, sure, Trump, the guy seen with Ghislaine Maxwell's the guy trying to stop pedophilia in America. You know, yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah, it's weird. It hasn't been really that bad for us, you know, in terms of you know, around us and outside of our little bubble. You know, it's not the greatest, of course, but yeah, it's. I mean, maybe because we're kind of introverted anyway.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so it's like I can't imagine what it would be like if you were this extroverted, and the way that you recharge your batteries would be to have to be around people all the time. So
Yeah.
it must be fucking a nightmare for anybody that really is like that, you know, that has to be around tons of people all the time to feel normal, whereas we have to be alone to feel normal after being around people for a little bit. You know, it's just sort of how it goes. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just, you know, it's kind of how I'm built, I guess.
Yeah, me too. I don't feel the need to be around people either. So, like, I'm fine if I am. Like, I don't really have a problem with it, really. But I'm just happy enough to be at home drawing too. I don't like the idea. Well, I don't like people getting sick, and I don't like people who like have to work in grocery stores and all that have to suffer because people are totally stupid.
Yeah, I agree. Well, obviously this year, since you, like you said, even though you couldn't have played shows and stuff with the band, like you already said, you'll just do something else. Have you been doing a lot of? Obviously, I think I know the answer to this, but you must be doing a lot of painting and drawing this year. How's that been going on?
Good. I was doing lots of outdoor painting, and then and then I started drawing more, so painting less, just because I was getting busy drawing. I was just I was just drawing like crazy. I'm trying to get better at just drawing whatever I want from my imagination. So that's what I've been working on for the last since I guess July I started. Like, I was just like, okay, enough's enough. I gotta really try now. Because I always want to, and I'm always doodling around, you know, but I was like, I want to be able to draw anything that I can, you know.
That's
or
tough.
That I want to, you know. Yeah.
What are your what do you think are, like, I'll tell you what I think about my weaknesses, but as far as things drawn from memory, what are your weaknesses about, as far as things that you just can't draw without looking at something? Because I can't draw. I can barely draw hands, and I can really not draw feet. And I think drawing feet is a pretty common thing from talking to people. Like, feet are kind of hard to draw, for me at least. Is there something?
I guess when I say drawing from imagination is like, I guess all of us were under an assumption that people like doing all the art we love when they're drawing from their imagination, that they're not using reference. But I've been taking this class with Will West, and he was really adamant, especially yesterday. I was in the class, and he's like, if you're not using reference to draw your stuff, it doesn't show that you're good. It shows that you're an amateur. Like, it lets everyone know that you're I've realized that everyone working in all the shows, and like, there's the odd person who's so good at drawing like the figure, you know, like they're doing comics like out of their head, you know. And I can kind of do that too if I've like been drawing the figure like quite a bit recently, you know, from life and then doing it from my mind. But if I haven't for a bit, then it starts to fade away. But like Will was saying, like I did all these like cutaways of these science labs, and the first ones I handed in, like they're all right, but like I think because I wasn't using as much reference, they didn't have the authenticity, you know, because you can only pull so much from your imagination.
Yeah.
And then I started taking like the parts out of Russian submarines and all that, and like so everything, all the gadgetry and all that actually looks authentic in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big part of it, is to like have something. And Will also said always have an artist that you really like up. Like it doesn't have to be the same one every time, but someone who you're like trying to imprint their
Style.
what you want from them onto your art, you know. So you're like, so you're not having to start from scratch like a cave person all the time. Like you already have something you're aspiring to. You have the reference that you're looking at, and you have it all laid out. And then like you have your idea already, so it's gonna fit, and no one will ever feel like you've taken parts, you know, or ideas from here, because sometimes you're just taking like maybe someone's line work or someone's like you're not stealing their ideas, you're just stealing their
You're borrowing
their butt, you know. Yeah. So if you can, I wasn't doing that before, and I find like just all that, like it just keeps like adding up. Like instead of trying to start from scratch all the time, like you feel like you have to be, like I do that with music too. Like you just feel like I have to make this riff so it's completely unlike anything that I, you know, and but really like it doesn't matter, you know, like you can hear the other stuff and try to build on it rather than feel like you have to completely start from scratch at this like mind-numbing way of doing things.
Right.
I hope that makes sense, but yeah, I've just been finding, the reference is like a key. Like it shows that you're professional and understand. That's what Will's saying. Like when people see you using reference properly, like other professionals or whatever, like I'm not a professional, I'm just an amateur. But if they can see that you're not using reference and trying to make everything out of your head, like completely, and where they know if you looked at reference, it could be better, it actually marks you as an amateur, not a pro, you know?
Yeah, I get it. That's kind of funny because like for a long time when I was younger, I just thought if you were really good and could draw a phone that's the mark of being really good at drawing or something. If you could just do it out of your head.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It never occurred to me that people use reference for everything. That's just what I thought when I was younger. It wasn't even that long ago, you know. And then I just realized, oh no, do you do that?
Do I use reference?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for everything.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
And like lately in the last year and a half, how long have I had the tablet for? A year and a half now?
Year and a half.
I got this tablet. That's what we're talking to you on.
Yeah.
And I put the Procreate program on it. And I don't really know anything about any of that stuff or computer stuff or whatever. But it was really cool and fun and just made everything seem like I jumped to a different level. But I did a lot of referencing, and lately it's just been a lot of taking these usually blurry photos and just like drawing on top of it, but you can't really see it, and it never quite looks exactly the way it looks.
Right.
It's been fun for like practicing my inking skills. Like I started to get I mean, this is kind of beside the point, but since we're having an art conversation, it's been like really good practice for like trying to develop a skill that I don't think I really had. And because, I can't paint unlike you guys, but, I can draw, but it's been kind of exciting to watch sort of progression, maybe not in the actual process, but just after all the practice, how these things seem to look better and get easier to do because you put in the, I guess, the work, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, you draw so much, you know what I mean? Like,
I draw a lot.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
that's what
drawing-
it's all about, you know?
I guess obviously if you keep doing something, hopefully you'll get better at it.
Yeah, for sure. It shows like if you go back from the drawing on the Snake Nation to now, it's like a obviously completely different person.
We were just talking about Snake Nation last night.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, every once in a while people go, boy, that Snake Nation drawing, that's really good. It's like, yeah, luckily I've gotten a little bit better since then. Or that or the 7 seconds cover, you know. Like
Oh, I didn't know you drew that. Oh, cool.
the Walk Together, Rock Together
Yeah,
cover.
yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
It's good, but obviously now you're way better. That's the way it goes, you know.
It'd be kind of sad. It'd be kind of sad if I wasn't any better than that.
Actually, that's one thing I like about art or like drawing. Like with music, people don't want you to get better and they don't want anything to change. But with drawing, people actually do want to see you get better.
Yeah.
I find that kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, like I've also seen all your like, I mean, besides your painting, I've seen all your like, you know, ink and illustrating stuff, and it's pretty fucking phenomenal, I think. And that's like stuff that you just said that you just started to pay more attention to this year, like back in June, was it?
In July, I started like to try to get more imaginary stuff, you know, like a lot of the pen and ink stuff I was doing was still like plein air drawing, you know, outside, which I'm still 100% into, but I don't know. That was my goal this year. I want to get up to like being able to I want to start painting almost like Dungeons and Dragons type stuff in like whatever medium. I haven't figured out what would be the best, but like I usually paint in oil, but I think like maybe acrylic or something would be better for that.
You do all your stuff in oil?
Yeah, usually, yeah. Or gouache. Actually, starting this year, I did a lot more in gouache than oil, but like I guess, or starting in April or whatever, I started doing way more gouache for just basically a month. Then I started drawing a lot more.
I remember when I had talked to you and set up this idea of us coming up to see Propagandhi. How long ago was that now?
Yeah.
Is that a year and a half ago?
It was during the hurricane.
It was during a hurricane. You guys played in Baltimore.
Right.
And then we all met, and then we talked to you about your artwork. And even though you haven't got a copy of the book yet, there's a part of how you approach what you're doing that I think is really inspiring and neat, where it's like you're just interested in the process of learning, and you seem pretty protective of what you're doing. Like you're in no hurry to. I mean, you have your Instagram page and you show people what you can do, but you're not really in a hurry to do anything else other than what you want to do, and you're not really interested in being part of the art world and maybe some of the more commercial aspects of it. And that seems very admirable to me. Whereas with music, it's obviously a different thing, but like maybe the artwork and what you're doing is sort of, I'm trying to pay you a compliment, but it's not like coming out. Well, just the attitude's very interesting. Do you see like a point, like if you feel like you've progressed to a point where you feel more comfortable with what you're doing, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth because we think it's amazing.
Oh, thanks.
But like, is that something in the future? Like if you started to feel more like, yeah, this is kind of going how I want, I don't mind the idea of trying to do anything, or do you just have such a disdain for what you would be afraid you would encounter if you went out into the art world, which is something I don't know anything about at all? Is there any of that going on influencing your decision to sort of keep your cards kind of close to your vest as far as your painting and your art, your inking and artistic stuff?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't.
It's hard to ask too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like music. Like the fun part is like making the songs and playing them. The part that's not fun is like thinking about any of it.
Like putting
Like if I'm on the internet and I see the name, like if I see my name or I see Propagandhi, I get an instant like, oh shit, I don't want to see that, like no matter what it is, or you know what I mean. I just want to be the music, play the music, but the other stuff's kind of this necessary thing about it. And I find with the thing I'm in with art, like sometimes, like even if I get a message like asking someone if they want to buy something or whatever, like I kind of still get this feeling like, oh, I don't want to even think about that, like I appreciate it. Same with all the Propagandhi stuff. Like I like it. I like or I won't say I like talking about it, but I like that people are into it, and I like the show. I like everything, but it's just something about just the art is like I don't like the stress of any of it. Like I just want to make the little world or whatever, and like exit this one into that one, and it's hard to bring this world into that world.
Are you you're kind of keeping them separate?
I like the band and the art, or the
band and the art.
Well, I guess I did the cover for Failed State and all that, but even that, if I start like, sometimes it's the pressure I don't like, like if I have to do a record cover, then I have to like I have to make the art feel like it's good enough to be a record cover, or it has to suit this, or it has to suit that. Like if in my class, like Will tells me to make a mad science lab, I'm like, okay, I'll make a mad science lab, and it's not that important or anything,
Yeah.
Like it's hard on the mind to figure out how to do it, but it's not stressful in the way of like if I make this and it's gonna go in some movie where I'm you know what I mean. It's just I don't have that stress.
Sure,
and I'm not against it. Like with Propagandhi, like we're always under stress. The song making's under stress, because you can't just make a good fun song. You have to it has to be almost good enough to be on a record that everyone's gonna think's better than the last one, which is like it just changes everything, like I can't like I kind of find like other people, like if you just consider yourself a local band or something, you make a song that is, oh, here, I'll just make this funny song because we're going to play it. And, a few of my friends are going to like it, or
25 people, 30 people are going to like it.
Yeah. So I just find that's probably why I end up with like not very many songs on our Propagandhi records. Cause like I have a million riffs that I just like, you just keep second guessing yourself. Like, is this the best I've done? I don't know, And then I listen back after our records are out at the tapes. I'm like, man, half these are pretty killer,
What was I stressing about?
Yeah, and I've abandoned them, so.
Yeah, well, I listened to Chris's, we listened to Chris's podcast, and
yeah.
And he, every once in a while he does these pretty thoughtful, long sort of, I wouldn't say rambling, but they're very long and involved recordings of him talking about what was going on when you guys were doing a song. Right. And he always talks about how when you guys write songs, it's like you investigate every little possibility of what could make the song better, and like it drags, like it could possibly drag on and on and on, but like you're sort of having this quest to make this sort of like the most the best thing it could be. Like, yeah. What we have is that why it takes the musical end of Propagandhi, and not even just the music, but the lyrics. Obviously, there's a lot of thought that goes into the lyrics, So it's like you're spending a lot of time putting these songs and records together, and it almost seems like the work you're putting into it kind of mirrors the work that maybe you're doing with your art. Because it is art, but it's just a different kind of art. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I wake up and I play guitar like as long as I can, and before I start drawing or painting, like every day, you know. So I go through scales. I play jazz. I'll learn AC/DC songs. I'll work on my songs. I'll play Chris's songs. I'll collect my I have things with like hundreds of riffs on them, like my little tapes. It's just like music. It's so unending, or like you can just keep changing the same thing so many times. Like
Sure.
with a painting, like after a certain amount of strokes, it's dead. You know what I'm saying? Like you can try to fix it, but like the freshness is gone. Whereas music, like sometimes by the time we start to the time we end, like we've made about 15 songs, like it's changed so many times. And it's, and like, it's not always saying like, just because it's changing, it's getting better. Like sometimes we have to ask ourselves, is this song like, is it getting better? Is it going sideways, or is it just like changing, but staying the same level of goodness, like on my tapes, like after our records come out, like, because it's hard to organize all your riffs and stuff, right? Because they're all over. And half the time after a record, I'm like, okay, that part should have been in the song, but I abandoned it because I forgot about it or changed it, or you had to change it a little bit because it didn't fit as well with something else. But the parts in themselves are better, and you're just like you just don't know. Like I can't with music, I have a hard time organizing it because it's so endless and unending. Whereas like a drawing or a painting, I go do it. If I'm painting outside, sun's changing 3 hours or whatever, it's over. For me, it's over. And then go to the next thing. If I'm in a class, I have a week to do a science lab. Okay, I'll do a science lab. Thursday night, 4 a.m. after I'm tired as hell and can't possibly do it anymore. It's due tomorrow. Okay, hand it in. Science lab's over for the day. Next week, okay, I got to rotate the science lab. Okay, it's over. But music, it's like, I don't know, whatever. And, like it keeps going and going. When we have a deadline for a record, then we really start to hunker down, obviously. But you also are under this situation where it's like you're thinking, like, I have to keep playing this song after. Like if I was making the science lab knowing I have to maybe play this science lab for 10 more years, like I better make the lab pretty good,
I have to enjoy doing this because I'm going to be doing this for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And like the times where a few times I've like underdid my bass line or something, just thinking, I'll give this song space, in the record. And then later on playing it live, I'm like, man, I wish I did something else with this bass, but people hear this song this way and I don't really feel like changing it,
Right. You were originally a guitar player.
Yeah, I still play guitar probably more than bass, but yeah, I was playing guitar, and then Chris asked if I wanted to play bass in Propagandhi, and that's when I started bass. Actually, I didn't even have a bass.
Really? And that was your other band was I Spy.
Yeah.
Right. And you were the guitar player singer.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny because like with Propagandhi, I had to backpedal a lot because I when I was kind of turned on to Propagandhi, it wasn't with anything that you're not on. So, so when I went back and listened to those first couple of records, I mean, I think, based on like talking to you and like the kind of music that we're all into and not being into some of the stuff that the band ended up being lumped into, that there would have been no way I would have ever encountered those first couple of records, at all. It sounds like a completely different band in every way. And yet for some people that like the band, that's their favorite stuff. But for me, it's really, as it's gone on, it's, it just seems like it's evolved into this different thing, which is kind of funny because I had to learn about what you guys did when I was introduced to the band. Like the idea that you guys were even lumped in with you know, things like NoFX and whatever. Nothing against those guys as people, but it just seems like you guys were obviously coming from a completely different sort of situation. And, you know, it sounds like you guys are influenced by, you know, from what I know, you know, Dead Kennedys. And we've talked a lot about how much you like Animosity and Technology from Corrosion and Conformity. And did you guys probably like the UK Subhumans, maybe?
I think
Maybe.
George did, our drummer, but like for us, like maybe even especially up here on the prairies is like the UK Subhumans, like I would have liked it, but I could only buy so many records and had like 2 other friends that were into punk. So it's basically like what you got is what you got into, and everything else.
Right. I keep forgetting that there was a Vancouver Subhumans too.
Yeah, they're pretty good too.
Yeah, you know, which
I think from where Chris and George started with Propagandhi, like I almost find that like something like Today's Empires, or it's almost more like the first 2 records were less like the continuation of Propagandhi before, like on their demos, until when I joined would be almost more logical than putting those first 2 records between them.
Right.
In a slight way. So they were a little more like Chris and George when they started, they were trying to be kind of a crossover band. And then it kind of morphed. They probably heard like Bad Religion and NoFX, and that added some of that in.
Right.
But quickly changed direction when they realized like that it was kind of like, you know what I mean? Like the first, like when those bands came out, they were like, it wasn't like there was this fat scene, you know? So I think that like they injected a little bit of that into it because they were into it, but then quickly turned directions again, you know, where they saw where it was headed.
Yeah.
I just think back about, and I've read a few interviews where you were talking about a lot of these people that were in bands at a certain point. I mean, I still get excited about listening to music, and I'm totally into it no matter what happens, you know. But it kind of just seems like I read a few interviews where you said, well, just something just sort of changed somehow. And it's not like it's a situation of blaming anybody. It's just that, you know, a lot of the stuff I still liked, or I liked back then, I still like. And there's just like heavyweight bands that really meant a lot to you, that you know, people that worked hard, practiced hard, did a bunch of stuff, you know. There's a whole bunch of bands that we all, you know, feel that way about. Like people that are like, I have to play this music or else I'm going to kill somebody, or I'm going to be really uptight. This is what I have to do. It's kind of like me with drawing now, like, or you, where are you? Like, we're like, you have to do these things because if you don't, you're not going to feel right or whatever. And musically speaking, you know, some of the bands that we were talking about, like, kind of gave you that feeling, and those bands were kind of like a backdrop for you to get excited about doing your own thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think sometimes I think with the punk bands, like you get into them because they aren't playing as well as Iron Maiden, and it gives you hope, right? But at the same time, they were all mostly playing the best they could. But as time goes on, and the bands march on, when you realize, okay, now they're not trying to play the best they can. They're just trying to like maintain this kind of lameness, but charge way more to get in if they were successful. But it's almost like no, wait a minute. When you guys were good, it was because you were trying to play the best you can and had all this passion. You just weren't very good yet. You know, but your ideas or the spirit was enough to carry it through. But when you're not trying anymore and there's no spirit and you're just trying to rehash the past, it becomes a complete pointless endeavor. Like for us to, like, let's say in our minds, if we thought the first 2 Propagandhi records were like the pinnacle of musical history, and we were trying to keep recapturing them,
right?
Like no matter how successful we were, it wouldn't work. You know, like even if we made it sound exactly the same, it wouldn't register the same because time has changed. We're older, things are different. It would just seem goofy. Like if Chris was trying to sing like that, and like to me,
Sure.
it doesn't work. You know, it's like if I go back to try to draw, like I used to, whatever, draw some little ninja comic. If I was to go try to draw the same comic in the same style, you'd be like, why? You know, like,
Sure.
why are you doing this? You know?
And plus, you also want to think at the end of the day that you're trying to do something at least a little different than what you did yesterday. Like if you don't feel like you're getting better, you know, like at doing something or trying to put a new wrinkle on it, whether it's music or whether it's painting or drawing, then you know you're done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, which you know,
Yeah.
like
And it's kind of, and it doesn't have to be like adding more stuff, you know? Like it's not like I was in a punk band and it was simple and now I'm gonna play like Yngwie solos over it. It just has to be like your quest maybe is like, I gotta make these songs better. I gotta make these songs you know, I gotta play the chords tighter and heavier, or you know, just you know, like you hear AC/DC, like when they're doing the same thing all the time. When they're good isn't when they're trying to rehash the past. When they're good is when like
when they're being
on
AC/DC.
that one record, that song "Safe in New York City," you know, it's like, okay, this isn't your typical AC/DC song, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty funny because I was just listening to that record a couple of days ago. Stiff Upper Lip.
Yeah.
Satellite Blues. That's a good record. I'm actually excited about the new AC/DC record.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I've been learning their songs lately. That's why it's on my mind. I was just going through, you know, hearing how it's kind of just the genius of their groove and all that. It's like
Bill Rudd.
Yeah, it's
I can always tell a lot about somebody's musical taste when they say that Phil Rudd is a bad drummer or that anybody can play that. It's like, no, you're wrong on both counts.
Yeah,
he's a great drummer. And how many times have you heard an AC/DC song played correctly by anybody that isn't Phil Rudd behind the kit? Never.
Yeah. And I also notice like if I'm trying to learn their songs, if it seems too hard to play, I'm doing it wrong, which I find kind of interesting in my own assessment. But I mean to get the idea, but then the challenge of AC/DC is to be dead on like Malcolm and Angus. You know?
Yeah, it's like a big angry machine, and it's all about economy, you know.
Yeah.
And like, so when people say that stuff's easy, it's like, okay, well, you do it. Oh wait, it doesn't sound right. Well, there you go. It's actually a lot tougher than it seems, you know.
Or it's so easy. It's so easy that no other band in the world has ever been able to do it. You know, like,
nobody.
Like all the '80s, everyone was trying to be AC/DC and Van Halen mixed. No one was successful.
You know, I don't think I've ever had it put that way, but that is kind of and AC/DC and Van Halen, when they both came out, were the two bands you just did not want to follow. When they both first came out in 1978, they blew everybody off the stage because they were like that good, and everybody else was like Aerosmith and Ted Nugent, and I like all that stuff, but they were young and hungry and probably not on drugs, and that probably didn't hurt either, you know.
Yeah, I was reading in that I guess it was KK Downing from Priest's book. He says the one band that he didn't want to play with was AC/DC, or it was the one band he just felt like we're not as good as this.
I would agree. I would totally agree. I think Judas Priest made the biggest mistake of their career when they got rid of Les Binks, the drummer from Unleashed in the East.
You know, I kind of think I agree that he's awesome, but when I really listen to, like, I've seen you say that before too, and I feel like pressing, yeah, you're right. But yeah, the groove on "You've Got Another Thing Coming," "Screaming for Vengeance," like Dave Holland nails it so hard. It's like I can't imagine those not being the beats, you know?
I understand. And also, he did play on Electric Eye, which is probably my favorite, one of my favorite post Les Binks Judas Priest songs.
Yeah.
You know, that song is amazing.
Yeah, he had a kind of a groove that was insane too. I find like really, especially like listen to Screaming for Vengeance. That kind of the way that the groove hits.
Yeah.
It's like I couldn't imagine it being replaced, you know. And then I like take my finger away from the button, saying I agree with you.
I'll give you. You got a point, and I'll give you that. I'll give you that. That's fine. Well, you know, like, but that's the thing about Propagandhi that I like is like because of all the thought that go and care that goes into, especially the last 3 records. You know, it does remind me of a time. I hate saying stuff like this because it makes me sound like, well, back in my day, blah blah blah. But it does remind me of a time where there were more bands that really put it all out there and really cared about what they were doing. And, you know, and that's probably kind of an ignorant thing for me to say because I know there's a lot of good people playing music and bands out there. But in the world of punk rock hardcore from the time period, I just can't help but still gravitate toward that time period. And there was, you know, you had, and not even just punk bands or hardcore bands, you know, like how do you got bands like Voivod or No Means No or the Melvins or SNFU or Black Flag or the Bad Brains, all those bands at their peak, they're all completely different, giving it their all, and they're all completely different universes.
Yeah.
And you guys have your own universe, and you know, I think that's what I kind of gravitated toward because it just reminded me of a time where there were like a lot more heavyweight, like, yeah, we're gonna go to Baltimore and see these guys play. You know, I'm 50 whatever years old, but I really want to see this. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I guess it's like for us, it's the same thing as like that's what we want to, like that's the feeling we want too, right? So why are we going to waste our lives playing music to not, like we don't want a retro feeling, but we want that same feeling where it was like we don't give a shit if it's punk, it's metal, it's you call it whatever you want. We just want to play the best we can, and hopefully the songs are good. And
yeah,
like when you play, you want in your head, even when you're playing, you want the feeling that you felt watching SNFU or something from your own band. And if you can't sort of get that feeling, then
what's the point?
Then you have to do then instead of staying that path, like I can't get this feeling, I'll stay this path. You got to change direction until you can try to find that feeling, you know. Same with painting or art. Like if you want a painting with lost edges, and every time you draw a line, oh, I don't see a lost edge there, I'll just keep drawing the same line. It's like, no, you're not going to find a lost edge out of a line. You're going to find a lost edge by getting rid of the line.
Right. Well, since you brought up SNFU, I know you're a big fan, so I have to ask you, what does this will be the Canadian punk hardcore part of the interview. But I know SNFU meant a lot to you and stuff. Any thoughts about them? Or I don't want to say their legacy, but you know, Chai Pig's death was obviously a long time coming. Sad to say. When did you grew up in Regina, right?
Yeah.
Did they come there and play?
Yeah, they'd come there to Regina. The first time I ever heard of them was just on the bus station downtown. I just saw someone graffitied SNFU, you know. And then, so I someone, or I guess I must have known it was a band.
She's not on the menu or something.
Yeah.
What's that?
So I saw that, and then I guess I knew it was a band, and then I eventually saw that. I saw a flyer. It was Chai Pig Jumping, saying SNFU's. Actually, I was too late for the show though, but it was a flyer from the show that had just happened, and I was like, okay. I was 13 or something. This is like the next time I'm gonna be there, you know? And then, I went to that. It was amazing. Yeah.
Which lineup was it?
That was right that was If You Swear You'll Catch No Fish.
Oh, so the Dave Bacon era.
Yeah. It was like the end of that pretty much. And then
they were good, man, with Ted Sims on drums.
The first time I saw him, Ted is on drums. Yeah, with Ted. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, they're completely amazing. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I thought Ted was my favorite SNFU drummer.
Yeah. I only recently discovered that In the Meantime and In Between Time was such a good record.
Yeah, it's great.
Is it true that like when Chris helped run a record label that they had a chance to put that record out and it didn't happen, or did I just mishear that? Or am I totally...
That's right. Yeah, they sent it. I don't know. I think they had kind of a little consensus going. You know, there was like 4 of them. I don't know what happened, but I remember Chris playing me like, check out these new SNFU songs, and I was like, wow, this sounds good to me. like I don't think it was about the music. I think it was because the label was kind of like it was like kind of a political records, you know, and I guess they didn't see how that fit in, or it's kind of unfortunate in retrospect, you know.
Right.
I think that was more of it. Like what? Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad, but.
Apparently, it got reissued, and I ordered a copy, but I haven't got it.
Yeah, I did too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. What about other band, Beyond Possession? You were a fan of them?
Yeah, I was the biggest Beyond Possession fan. To me, it's still one of their shows is my favorite show I've ever seen. It was just the way that the bass and the drums played together. I'd never heard something like that live.
That constant gallop.
Yeah, it was just there's something about that guy's bass playing was so miraculous. Hyrax, the band.
Yeah, I used to be pen pals with Caton W.
Yeah, Caton was saying to me about 2 months ago, just on some kind of chat, that when he saw Beyond Possession, he was like, this guy's the Steve Harris of punk.
He is, and what's pretty funny is that he looks just like either Benjamin Orr from the Cars or Dave Murray from Iron Maiden.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all 3 of them look exactly alike. They played in Raleigh once a long time ago. They're really good, and they yeah. Well, anyway, it was a long time ago, but yeah. My theory about them was like if they had only put an insert in that record, it would have. That sounds really fucking stupid thing to say.
Photos.
That the actual Metal Blade Death Records album, where it was just that weird artwork and their name, and then you open it up and you get nothing, or at least we got nothing.
Lyrics.
Really? Yeah. The stretch marks were from
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, right?
Yeah.
I saw them once. And I know you were a fan of No Means No.
I love No Means No, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the first time I saw them was on the Day Everything Became Nothing tour.
Still with Andy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I always saw the one. Yeah, the record I seem to like the most is Sex Man. I don't know. Were you into the band The Neos at all from Victoria?
I hadn't heard of them until way later, so not really, you know, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. And then my last Canadian content obscure punk rock band that I like, I'm wondering if you like them, they were from Toronto. They were called Youth. Did you?
I had just that it came from the Pit comp with them on it.
Right, they're on that, and they had like a 12-inch too. That's pretty
cool. Yeah, I never heard it. No, but
I'll send you a link. You might like it.
The other cool Canadian bands I thought was Death Sentence. You ever heard of them?
Were they from Vancouver?
Vancouver. Yeah, they were great.
I remember the name.
And the other band that Propagandhi was very, I wouldn't say based on, but hugely influenced by was this band Guilt Parade from like Halifax or something. But in Regina, I used to listen to Guilt Parade a lot too, me and my friends. They're really, really rare band. They were amazing though. They were kind of a mix between metal and the Dead Kennedys and kind of this and that. And,
right.
It's very 80s if you look back. Like some of the lyrics are like start to become kind of eye rolling, but like Propaganda was like
Reagan. Not Reagan.
They were kind of on the Dayglow kick too of like they had a song like "Fuck Off America" and stuff like that. You know, like very very Canadian in that way of like you know, just kind of like fuck you, all that stuff, and Just Propagandhi was like Chris and Jordan, who were Propagandhi, basically like were so into Guilt Parade. And when I moved to Winnipeg, when I first saw Propagandhi, I was like, man, these guys are so much like Guilt Parade. And then I remember saying to Chris, like, you guys remind me of Guilt Parade. Have you ever heard of them? He was like, oh, we love Guilt Parade. Like, I think probably the first time I ever talked to him. So like when I first saw Propagandhi, like I didn't know anything about NoFX or Bad Religion, like at all in any way. And or did I? I don't know. I was close to not, like I didn't care or anything at least. And but to me, Propagandhi was like kind of I thought just kind of a, because they also didn't tune to E, they were tuned down. I was like, it's kind of like this heavy punk that sounds like Guilt Parade, like, and really like the kind of biting, thoughtful lyrics that I hadn't heard really put so sharply, I would suppose, even like anti-homophobic stuff, like even bands like Dead Kennedys and stuff didn't put it that bluntly. And I really found, coming from a small town to another city, I was like, okay, here's some things that people weren't saying in my town, especially my friends, even though we were all listening to punk, and I found it really inspiring, mixed with a sound that I understood, like as kind of metallic punk crossover Guilt Parade, like I would actually, and then when the first Propagandhi record came out, I was actually like inside, I still thought it was awesome, and I was amazed that they had an actual record. But I was kind of just a little bit like I was kind of thinking, okay, now they're going to be more associated with Bad Religion and NoFX than what I actually feel like they are. And even the songs on the record were a little bit more like that, so the association is more legitimate. But to me, the Propagandhi sound was more the other sound, like
right.
And then I was hoping to, like, when I joined, like take a little bit of that vibe forward with us,
Right. Did all the members of Propagandhi grow up in the prairies parts of Canada?
Yeah, I was like Chris, George, they're from Portage, like 45 minutes from Winnipeg here. And then there was like just guys who were just like in the band for a little bit, like this guy Stinky Mike, he's from Winnipeg, and then this guy Hopper's from here, and then Samson was from
Stinky Mike.
Yeah. So yeah. And I think that's pretty much everyone then, except for and Beaver.
Right.
Beaver's from Gladstone, this town, like an hour from Winnipeg too.
When I drove across like your country twice, especially going through just all the prairies and all the nothingness that was there, and just, there was just like nothing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
And the only place in the States that even came close to that was, I'm sure you've driven through it, is Wyoming.
Right. Yeah.
We'll just accept. And I was just
Wyoming's way more hilly, and like if you, like, for me as a painter or something, like when I get to Wyoming, the hills is like, okay, this is really painterly and nice, but you get to the prairies, it's flat.
Yeah, it's real flat. And it was like, we drove through your neck of the woods. Well, not really your neck of the woods yet, but and I was like thinking, these guys grew up, and kind of similar to pretty much most anybody. There's nothing around, and you just have to find something that's going to entertain you and interest you and get into, because the alternative is just like, just fields and stuff like that. So it seems like it was it really important to like discover the for a lack of a better word, the punk rock music world at the time that you did, because of your surroundings? Because almost everybody I've talked to has said, yes, that was the stuff that saved my life and took me out of whatever environment mentally I was in. Do you think that you and the rest of those guys kind of felt the same way?
I think so. Like for me, personally, like I was on a path of like my dad drank way too much and kind of like he'd bully me, my mom, my brother, and all that. And I was kind of on a path of maybe being a person like he's really not like I like, you know what I mean? I'm not, that's his negative side. He obviously has a really positive side too. He's artistic painter. I could tell he loved me, all that good stuff, but like he would bully us. And I was on this path of like kind of going down that path. Like I was starting to watch Married with Children a lot, like starting to almost act like him. You know, that kind of like I was almost starting to act like a character on Married with Children.
You mean like an asshole?
Yeah, pretty much. You know what I mean? But not even like just and I was like, I think if like maybe it's just that age too, so you can't give music all this credit. My mom was really like positive, trying to, you know, do things for me.
Right.
But I needed to see like mentors that weren't acting like that and like not trying to be homophobic, not trying to be racist. Because like I can see like the people that I grew up with and were my friends when I see them on Facebook and their posts, like it shows me if I didn't go down this other path, I would have been like this. And to me, it's really hard to see. It's hard to see that they never changed any corner from then till now. You know?
You mean like when you see people that come from a small town and they think they know everything and maybe they're kind of assholes to other people and they think they're worldly, but they haven't even left their hometown. They have no idea what the world is like, or they haven't traveled and that kind of thing.
And even the funny kids, like their thing was they were the funny kid, but then they go through like, okay, you spend 20 years, maybe 30 years drinking, don't pay attention to anything. Suddenly you sign up for Facebook, you're part of this crazy algorithm you don't understand that's manipulating you. And I don't mean that as a conspiracy theory, I just mean that as reality. Like everyone's being by algorithms. And then they're like, you just see like, okay, if you've been sleeping and drinking all this time and you try to like now engage at the age of like almost 50, but you haven't thought about anything ever and have no even perception, and you're still not even reading the articles you're sharing, you're just sharing memes.
Yeah.
You are failing it 1,000%. You know, because we know, because we're both on social media, obviously a lot more than you, partly because of mostly because of our self-employment art career or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And you just nailed it 1,000%.
Yeah, I guess I've kind of, you know, thought about it quite a bit because it's like very often I'm so lucky at some point, music or art or someone somewhere told me to like, you need to stop and reflect on yourself a little bit. I think when I moved to Winnipeg, like I moved to Winnipeg with Regina ideas, but the people I met in Winnipeg, because they're part of the punk scene and Propagandhi was around, like I noticed some of the things that I would say as jokes in Regina weren't being taken the same in Winnipeg. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, dude, this, like I realized I'm like not afraid to reflect on myself and change, you know? I wasn't thinking of it as that at the time, but I was like, quickly like, man, I don't think people here find these kind of jokes and stuff as easy to get across as in Regina. And it didn't take me long. And then after I started listening to Propagandhi, I was like, okay, here's kind of where these people are coming from. Like they actually think racism and homophobia is stupid, you know? And you know what I mean? And I started reading just reading books. Actually, I didn't read books when I was a kid.
Well, you know, my problem was I just always assumed. Maybe I'm just dumb for assuming this. When I was younger, I used to be pretty sarcastic towards people. You're trying to tell me what to do, but it's only because I just thought, who doesn't know that you really got to tell people that rape is bad?
I know, yeah.
You know, do you really got to tell somebody that it's not cool to be, you know, racist and that, or whatever, or not even that it's cool. It has nothing to do with cool. It's just like, you know, you treat people as individuals one at a time. That's how I'd like to be treated. And you treat people the way you want to be treated too. So I just always thought whenever I hear some of these things, I would just think, well, who doesn't know that? But sadly enough, as it turns out, lots of people don't know that. I just assume more people think the way I do, and that's a bad misreading. I'm not saying that I'm super smart or anything. I just like, well, who doesn't know that these things are not good? And as it turns out, lots of people don't know that.
Yeah, lots and lots, including like not just people that you will characterize as small town people. Like you got big city lawyers, politicians, they think the same thing. Like they're no smarter. A lot of the time,
they're better at disguising how they really feel, or they do this thing that I hate is when they pander to people.
Yeah.
And I hate the idea of being pandered to.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Like don't worry, I got your back. I'll be doing the thinking for you because I'm here to help you. Or I just hate that pandering. Just treat me like a person. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
That was pretty serious. Well, well, let me ask you a few Canadian questions and to wrap things up, because as it turns out, as the older I get, the more I'm kind of fascinated with the idea of Canada, but I don't really know what Canada really means or whatever. I just have thought that there's this certain thing that I just can't put my finger on every time I go up there, where it's like there seems to be no pretense, and there seems to be more common sense for a lot of the people that I met. And there's just something that, as an American, for whatever that's worth, that is just really different, and I just can't put my finger on it. And not just because of the part of Canada where it's sort of like France, it's very French, but there's just something really different about it that I can't put my finger on it, that I find really interesting. When you guys first started traveling and going down to the States, did you have any conceptions or ideas of what America would be like? And then when you got there, did it live up to what you thought? Or does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, did you have any thoughts about traveling down to the States at all?
Kind of. Well, again, the first time I was ever in the States beyond the time I went to Disneyland as my only holiday when I was a kid was I went to Minneapolis just for the weekend. And yeah, as soon as I got there, we were in a pizza shop. I just heard like pop, 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 pop. I was sitting out the window. I saw a guy run with superhuman strength, jump over a car to get away from these shots and just go running like crazy. And these kind of women just kind of sauntered into the thing, kind of laughing like, oh, 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 oh. And I was like, holy shit. That was like my first day ever being in Minneapolis. And then, I guess touring around, I've had guns pulled on me a couple times. And I don't know, I guess like just having never left Saskatchewan barely, which is our province. The first time I went to the States a few times, like I was like a little apprehensive because of some of the situations we're getting in, like playing in the South, these weird little parties where they're just violent, crazy fights that are unending, and like, I don't know, man. Like just some of the situations we're in were so outlandish that like I like we get so much American TV like that, and even American news. It's like not like it was like this foreign thing, but it was
culture shock or anything, but still just kind of different.
Yeah, it just felt like a little more. It's more tense, and like people are more sure of everything. Like up here, you're a little more likely to have someone like be at least maybe a little bit unsure of something.
And people are more sorry up there, which I find very, very endearing, because I'm always apologizing for stuff I've never done to.
Yeah.
Sorry for beginning.
I guess that's kind of dumb in a way, but the one good thing is that it's like it's almost like like a reflective thing, you know, because it's an empathetic, like you're wondering how you're impacting this person you're talking to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So in a way, it's all right, you know.
Yeah, it's like these things that you can't really define or put your finger on, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's a dumb question, but I was just curious because there's a lot of my favorite stuff in the world comes from Canada, you know.
Yeah. I think sometimes I think that like Canada, because the population's a lot smaller, I feel like the government and everything can't quite get away with everything that they can get away with in the States. Like, you know, like in the States, like you, or as a person, like you can get lost like so far down the system, like, you know, like who even knows what's happening, you know, there's states, there's this, it just seems so big, no one can even get their mind on like what it even is whereas Canada, the population's small enough, whereas you feel like there's people, okay, and there's this government and whatever, you know, like it doesn't seem like this outlandish superpower trying to be all over the world with so much mega corruption.
Sure, and also like the reputation, it seems like to some people for Canada is that it's a benign place, and it's like what an incredibly great thing to have other people think about you, if that's, because that's clearly not the case, but it's like that's a great reputation to have, you know. I don't know. I got
and obviously for the listeners, like Canada obviously has huge problems with racism and corruption, everything else, police violence in Winnipeg especially. Like we have all the same problems. It's just it seems like it's just not so grand that it's like so emotionally overwhelming for.
Yeah, I hear you. Like I think for a while there, I was like watching these shows about rampant alcohol abuse and like you know, not quite the Northwest Territories, but just places farther up north, and just, you know, no future sort of situations, rampant alcoholism, no help from anybody, and being kind of not attracted to that, but finding it interesting because it's completely, it's a place that's completely foreign. What's the farthest north you've been in Canada?
I guess just like Edmonton and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I've never been up to Northwest Territories or anywhere. Yeah, my girlfriend Leah, though, she would do whale surveys way up north in like Iqaluit and all that. It's like,
oh wow,
way up in Nunavut. So yeah, it's like
I'm kind of fascinated by super isolated places that nobody would ever go in a million years, and you're the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're kind of attracted to that kind of thing. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's cool to be places less influenced by here, like people that know things completely different than, you know, that we wouldn't think about day to day, like how many whales are there right now, and you like all that kind of thought, you know. I find it so interesting.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like, man, I just couldn't make it up there because I'm just not a fan of fish and there's nothing else there. So it's like, I'm fucked. I'm just not a fan of fish.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, my girlfriend's vegan, was up there. She just had a little bit hard time getting stuff. It's expensive too for people to get food up there. Because they are getting a lot of their own food, you know, so like grocery stores have to travel so far from Manitoba to get there on a plane, or not from Manitoba, from probably
a plane or a boat if they can make it through.
Well, only in certain seasons too.
Only in certain seasons, yeah. I find all that stuff interesting. When I was a kid, I was really into these the Arctic Russian islands off of, you know,
yeah.
I would be into that. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I think that the way that there's northern Canada, you have like Greenland, you know, Russia's lays claim to stuff. You have Alaska. Sometimes I think up there when the ice starts to melt, it's going to be the base of a future war. Not the base, but the cause, you know.
Could be true.
Hope not, but
Yeah,
That's what we need.
that's what we need. Well, I can't think of anything else. But
all right. Thanks, you guys.
yeah, I just want to, thank you.